Good morning. My name is Susan Olsen. I'm here with Emily Sandblade. We're the founders of Stark Research Analytics, a small private research firm located here in New Hampshire. And we're here today to announce the rollout of the beta version of the New Hampshire income tax calculator. The purpose of the calculator is to estimate how much each New Hampshire citizen will get to pay in order to fund the shortfalls in federal funding that will inevitably come from New Hampshire's expanded Medicaid program. The assumptions used in the calculator, and we've got a graphic of its face here, were taken from the New Hampshire Tax Shift Plan, which is the creature of Democrat Representative Paul Henley of Concord here on the left. We've taken this from his website. He announced this in November of 2015. Our calculator uses his assumptions, and we also use the $458 million in annual funding that is to come into the state for expanded Medicaid. Henley's plan, which he says is neutral in revenue, it raises no money, it spends no money, it just takes money from the same pair of pants but different pockets. His plan would impose a 3.75% income tax on the adjusted gross income of New Hampshire taxpayers. His plan at 3.75% would seek to raise a little over $1.1 billion annually. As part of his plan, he would eliminate the statewide education property tax, not the statewide property tax. It's a bit misleading, but I'm sure he ran out of space. It would eliminate the statutorily required New Hampshire statewide education property tax. It would eliminate dividends and interest taxes. It does a number of things, and then finds all of the money to replace these sources of revenue from the New Hampshire income tax. The interesting part of the repeal of the statewide income tax we've shown on the calculator here to your left. What we found in using Mr. Henley's base assumptions and building the calculator to recover the Medicaid expansion funding shortfalls is that a New Hampshire income tax, instead of hurting rich people, would perversely hurt citizens of New Hampshire that don't own property and that earn 100% of their income in the state of New Hampshire. If you're working second shift at a manufacturing facility, if you're a teacher, if you're a nurse, if you're an electrician, if you're a plumber, and you earn your money here in New Hampshire, you are harmed more by this income tax than anyone else. Interestingly, the people who stand to benefit from this type of a plan to collect the Medicaid expansion shortfall are those 60,000 people or so who cross the border every day into Massachusetts and earn their income in Massachusetts. I would like to turn this over to Emily Sandblade, who is in fact the person who built the calculator. She's going to walk you through how it works. The calculator itself will be going live this afternoon on a website, and we're going to be going around various places and explaining how citizens of a given town, whether it's where I live in Warner or someone else, how this is going to impact you directly. So let me introduce Emily Sandblade, and we're going to get a computer turned on here. We'll take some questions afterwards. Emily?
Thank you very much. I developed the New Hampshire income tax calculator to allow individuals to understand exactly how their tax profile is going to change when an income tax is put into place. We see an income tax or a broad-based tax such as a sales tax as becoming more necessary as spending rises, and we see such items as expanded Medicaid as the reason for that spending to rise. So I'll bring that up and we'll talk about what it actually does. What you can do, as you can see, it's a very simple interface, and what you can do is you can put in the town that you live in, and we have every single town in New Hampshire with their respective breakouts of taxes built into this calculator. So in this case, because we're in Concord, I'm going to choose Concord today. Let's say that I own a home in Concord that's worth $200,000. Is that realistic? Maybe. And let's say in the next thing, I'm going to write down here, I'm going to put in my taxable income, which is my adjusted gross income from line 37 of the 1040 form, or line 6 of 1040 EZ. And it's what you pay your federal income tax on, and the state income tax will work the same way according to Representative Henley. And let's say that our income that we're looking at is, say, $60,000 a year, which is not too unrealistic. And and let's say that we derive it completely from being employed inside New Hampshire. So I'm going to put it 100%, which is the field over there. I'm going to just go ahead and assume that the expanded Medicaid at the current is funded at the current level, which is 95%. And then I'm going to calculate my tax, which we just do by pressing that button there. Currently, for a house that's $200,000 in the city of Concord, your annual tax is $5,468. When, if an income tax comes in according to Representative Henley's plan, the statewide property tax will go away, in which case the property tax will go down to $4,946, which is a bit over a $500 decrease. And that sounds really good. I mean, everybody wants their taxes to decrease. Unfortunately, the payoff here is that the income tax, which is currently zero, will go to $2,296. So instead of paying a little under $5,500, the total tax that people will pay, given those circumstances, will be over $7,200. And that's an increase of about $1,800. It's a pretty significant increase, and that's really what the tax shift is about. If you're a renter, for instance, in Concord, say, and you have an income of say, $30,000, currently, of course, you don't pay any income tax at all. Okay? Or there's no income tax, and you don't pay, your property tax is folded into your rent. Well, what's going to happen when you have a $30,000 income and there's an income tax is you're going to be taxed $1,148 per year, which if you're making $30,000 is actually a pretty substantial amount of money. It's basically your rent plus a little bit extra for the month for somebody who's making $30,000. And it's pretty significant in light of the fact that you're close enough to where you could probably qualify for expanded Medicaid. And we believe that that's going to actually launch more people. This particular income tax is going to launch more of the renters into a situation where they're going to qualify for expanded Medicaid. It's going to push them toward a little bit more, a little bit lower income level. One of the things that we noticed when we were doing this is if you're living in the southern New Hampshire area and you commute into Massachusetts every day, is your tax would change very considerably. And we noticed it would change, it would drop, your property tax would drop about 10 to 15%. But because you're already working in Massachusetts, and Massachusetts income tax is approximately 5.2%, it's a flat tax. You won't be paying any tax in New Hampshire, at least initially. The reality is that sooner or later, everybody raises the income tax. It's a very easy tax to raise. It doesn't generate any more bureaucracy than the initial tax does in order to collect it. And as a result, we expect the tax to go up once it's instituted. So that's why there's a serious line in the sand in this state, a serious bias against instituting income tax at all. Every other state that's instituted it has raised it. And we can't expect to be any different from that. Is there anything else that I should cover there?
Well, I think what we've tried to do here is take Mr. Henley at his word. We've used the same base figures that he has in terms of finding those adjusted gross incomes from the IRS, and we will have all of the underlying data available to anybody who's looking for it. But we've used his numbers, and we have also taken CMS at its word that it will never reduce between 95 to 90%. One of the things on this calculator that Emily didn't mention but is vitally important is there's a slider that lets you show what might happen if CMS says, gee, we can't do 90%, we can only do 70%. So it's all built in there based on that $458 million a year to show what would have to be recovered in New Hampshire if no other taxes are raised or no other revenue sources are found to pay for expanded Medicaid. We don't like this, but we think it's in the interest of every New Hampshire citizen and every New Hampshire legislator to understand clearly what's at risk here and who are the people who actually are harmed by this type of an undertaking. The calculator will be going live this afternoon on a website. We would be delighted to speak with anyone here who would like to see the base data. We will be going around the state to various meetings and committees and even some legislative sessions to roll out this calculator so people can see what it will do to their constituents. If you only have one town like Concord, you can see what happens. But say you're in a flotarial district and you've got 3 or 4 towns. Each of the residents in those towns will be harmed or helped differently. And we think it's important for people to understand before this is passed into law. We know we've got the Super Bowl and we know we've got the primary coming up, but paying attention to what's happening in Concord, paying attention to the money that people want brought in here for whatever reason is important. We again are Stark Research Analytics, private firm here based in Concord, and we would be happy to take any questions.
All right, thank you. The calculation that says we're going to do away with statewide property tax does not take into account the fact that 50% of those savings go to those who will not pay an income tax, due to the fact that 33% is businesses, 17% is second homes. So now the 50% that's left to pay the income tax that saved statewide property tax is further reduced by the roughly 10% that work in Massachusetts. So the group that is left is going to pay all the income tax, and it's going to be a far smaller group than the group that paid the statewide property tax.
Well, we think Mr. Henley's naming it tax shift is absolutely spot on.
Thank you.
It's definitely a shift. There's 770,000 people who are currently employed who live in New Hampshire, and approximately 70,000 of those go out of state, mostly to Massachusetts, every day. And what this does is, number one, it represents a subsidy of people who go to Massachusetts and work there, or to other states and work there. But it also focuses the taxes on people who actually make less money. And that's a fairly incredible situation, because normally if you're going to tax, you don't want to tax regressively. And this is definitely regressive because it penalizes people who actually work at somewhat lower average wage in New Hampshire.
So legislation has consequences, never forget that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.